I guess we're going to go ahead and get started, please. Welcome to Malvern Books. We're so happy that y'all could join us here today for what's going to be a real treat of a reading. We're so happy that you're here. Our first reader is Erin Belieu, the author of 4 poetry collections, all from Copper Canyon Press. Her poems have appeared in The New Yorker, The New York Times, The Atlantic, Tin House, and Slate, as well as in Best American Poetry. She is professor in the Creative Writing Program at Florida State University, director of the Port Townsend Writers Conference, and co-founder of VIDA, Women in Literary Arts. We have her new book, Slant 6, and we're thrilled to have her with us today.
I pronounced it prettier than most people do. That's just complicated. Let's take a moment. Here we go. Thanks for coming. There are 3. You're getting the most for your poetry dollar today. So I'm just going to read a few poems. As I said to these guys, I always like to read first because I won't actually pay attention. I'll just like chew on my finger, waiting to have to go up. So I'm just going to read briefly and then look forward to reading with our 2 illustrious readers today. And thank you very much to Malvern Books for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. So I'm just going to read a couple poems. I think the first one I'm going to read is a poem called I Growed No Potatoes to Write About, Sir, which hopefully will make more sense. When I tell you, one of the things I was thinking about when I was, I don't know, as this poem came into existence was, I had just read another critic had said something stank about Sylvia Plath and, you know, her being a terrible influence on women poets, which just seems sort of snide and pointless. And I was thinking about the fact that I always joke around with my partner Adam that a lot of the, not a lot, but there's a certain kind of male poet who suffers from something that I call Seamus envy, which is the, you know, the dirt and the fathers and the potatoes and oh father and bogs and this sort of stuff, and Seamus was somebody I knew pretty well because I worked with him when I lived in Boston for years, and so I was thinking about Seamus Heaney's poem Digging, and this poem ended up being sort of a, did anybody know that poem Digging? Anyway, this poem ended up being sort of a riff on that. It's one of the things the poem is about. And I'm pretty sure Seamus would have found it funny, so I think it's okay. So it says, I growed no potatoes to write about, sir, nor bogs, nor fathers, nor special water that was my place alone to make me hard and wise. I did not sow, nor bury, nor even try to fudge my nothings in such dirt with much befangled, peaty spade. My wars were far away, and fought by men I fear I do not know. Hi-ho. And hence to lady work I went, a cent, a go, long scrubbing at my bits, to strip them extra minty meadow clean. And only then convened the little ladies' manners class. Of Sundays it played me wormy rose, decaying that corsage of girls pinned to spindly ballroom chairs for lessons at our fancy luncheonette. Sir, we were a pastel herd. When handed us the rulers, be best assured we clenched them tense between our knees. You mind your Q's and P's, sir. We snapped our thighs right shut, sir. A hairy practice to quit the lady trap. But oh, it made a vestal woe to pay when rulers dropped for those who gived a skinful inch. And so from there my lady life increased, soft-balled, soft-voiced, with little tools to fit my box. Do not tell, sir, for we are friends, sir. Is that a yes? Then I will confess of nights when tides are slapping me about, moon-doodled as I am, and that betimes I creep into your plot and choose your best and biggest digger. Secret-like, I press the shaft inside my knee. I strain until the blisters come, freely, sir, without a word. I dig, I score, I tamp your squelchy turf. anybody else ever have to go to little ladies' manners classes? I'm the only one. You know, and they would, that was before your feet touched the floor, right? You're little, you're like 5, and so your feet aren't touching the floor, but you got this ruler between your knees, and by the end of the lunch, you're just like, you know, planking for 45 minutes. This next poem is a poem called Perfect. Page 27. Perfect. Perfect is not what I was, though you said I was. In an apartment in St. Louis on a green shag carpet redolent of the previous renter's cat. Above all things, I am accurate. So what to say of the sunlight? Nothing. In the 21st century, there's nothing to say about sunlight, which lasted as long as it takes to have sex, and made us feel as warm as human gets. Perfectly human, perfectly warm. Though sadly, you don't remember this. Though sadly, I remember this, and it still makes me angry, which is another word for sad, as well as a synonym for nothing. Though if anything is, your sadness is perfect. Your human disappointment, which you've raised like a baby in a black baby Bjorn, coaxing it into the best sadness anything warm could hope for. Your sadness gets a perfect score, a 1600 on the GRE. But if I had a gun, I'd shoot your sadness through the knee, then the head. Or if I were a goddess, I'd turn you to a tree with silver leaves, or a flower with the center as yellow as sunlight, like they used to do when saving the beautiful from themselves. This is a poem called, I'm trying to figure out, I'm making adjustments as we go along. I did actually write this out, but there are a lot of dirty words I realized in here. So I'm just going to space them out a little bit more so I don't just inundate you with foul language. But let's go ahead and do this one anyway, though. This is a poem called, how long have I been up here, like 20 minutes? This is a poem called How We Count in the South. I'm sort of involved in Democratic politics in Florida, where I live in northern Florida, and did a lot of work trying to, I can't even talk about Rick Scott and the governor's race. I can't, we'll actually weep as we're here, but we spent a lot of time trying to let people know what their voting rights were and standing online, trying to make sure that like student voters weren't being disenfranchised or given disinformation, and so we worked the polls. And anyway, so this is a poem that's sort of loosely based on that experience of voting rights in Florida. Sounds pretty sexy so far, doesn't it? It's called How We Count in the South. Add one tonight when the barred owl calls her tent revival. The cortege trailing a mosquito truck's deodorant breeze. Plus 2 the night before, where they inject one more black man up the road in Georgia. The Supreme Court tweets his final opinion. Which leads to 3, dear Jesus, the reason for each season. Of course we're exhausted by our soul's litigation. The old ones still milling at the polling place. The recently deceased sweating their subpoenas in feckless hands. Required to appear, we wait. We nurse ourselves and take a number. We lean against the sneeze guard at the country buffet until our ankles swell. Please, don't tell us history. Nobody hearts a cemetery like we do, where reenactors bite their bullets between headstones and ancient bells in neck-high silk prepare for the previously fought war. Every day is a day before. Though we do hear the news, oh sure, it gets to us. Story is up north, people shit crushed pineapple, and rest stop whores make change with paper money. Story is inscribed, fixed as the roulette wheels clacking inside casinos, where party boats freak like viscous bath boys in this electric gulf. Certainly, we've learned our numbers. We build a church for anyone who owns a pair of knees. But still, the old disease is catching. So pray with us. Unplug the power. Lord, illuminate the devils. Degrease the righteous man's eye. I think maybe just 2 more. And they're both going to be 30 pages long. You think I'm kidding? No, I am kidding, actually. This is a poem called, I like to read this poem because it lets me tell you about something cool, which is, do some of you know about the Motion Poems Project? Have you heard of it before? Motion Poems, which is this organization, Carissa. Hi, Joe. I didn't have my glasses on. Hey, it's nice to see you. So anyway, Motion Poems is this really cool organization that chooses poems to be turned into short films by, it turns out filmmakers have a lot of time on their hands between projects. And so they really love being able to do these sort of creative things with poems where they just sort of turn them loose on the poem. And so you do this collaborative thing. Well, it's not really that I guess it's a collaboration in that you give them the poem and then they just come back to you and they've made a film out of it. And it's pretty cool to see. So they made a film out of this poem of mine called When at a Certain Party in New York City. And I totally recommend the film to you, which is really hilarious, and you should check it out when you get home and can Google it. It's easy to find online. So this is called When at a Certain Party in New York City. Wherever you're from sucks. And wherever you grew up sucks. And everyone here lives in a converted chocolate factory or deconsecrated church without an ugly lamp or souvenir coffee cup in sight, but only carefully edited objets like Lacanian soap dispenser in the kitchen that looks like an industrial-age dildo. And when you rifle through the bathroom looking for a spare tampon, you discover that even their toothpaste is somehow more desirable than yours. And later you go with a world-famous critic to eat a plate of sushi prepared by a world-famous chef from Sweden, and the roll is conceived to look like a strand of pearls around a white throat. And it's so confusingly beautiful that it makes itself impossible to eat. And your friend back home who says the pioneers who first settled the great asphalt parking lot of our middle were not in fact heroic, but really the chubby ones who lacked the imagination to go all the way to California. It could be that she's onto something. Because admit it, when you look at the people on these streets, the razor blade women with their strategic bones, and the men wearing Amish pants with interesting zippers, it's pretty clear that you will never cut it anywhere that constitutes a wear, that even ordering a pint of tuna salad in a deli is an illustrative exercise in self-doubt. So when you see the dogs on the high-rise elevators practically tweaking, panting all the way down from the 19th floor to the first, dying to get on with their long-planned business of snuffling trash or peeing on something to which all day they've been looking forward. What you want is to be on the fastest Conestoga home where the other losers live and where the tasteless azaleas are, as we speak, half-heartedly exploding. Okay, and finally, I'm going to read a poem called Olentangy River. This was an interesting poem to write. Carl Phillips, a poet some of you may know, is a good old friend, and he's sort of a writing buddy with me. We give each other preposterous assignments a lot, and it's amazing how many, I think, actual poems I've gotten out of Carl's ridiculous assignments. And this assignment, I think he chose this one. This assignment was, we had to commit to writing something that felt, no matter what point of view it was from, whether it was first person or third person or whatever, it had to be something that felt like it was costing you to write it down, right? And that was the only assignment. So this is a poem called Olentangy River. Olentangy River is in Ohio, in case anybody's wondering. The other thing is this poem has got a lot of white space in it, so it's supposed to be read in a sort of fragmentary way, so I will do my best to indicate that. Olentangy River. Hardest day ever in Ohio, and gray and coldest, as if there were another day in Ohio. as if the sun that spelled briefly where we walked for hours freezing were a magic as I needed it to be. Gollum's proof and Yenta's blessing to those many nights of driving past your house. Inexorable, self-embarrassed, fuller than an itch, something better than this sore, those nights, not knowing where exactly, but inevitable, and clearly set on a direction, that place where I was driving, because of course there was you, somewhere sleeping or toasting bread, or staring tired at TV, and ending lost, always lost. Still, you've never been imagined as I imagined you today, with a wife sleeping in Ohio and babies down the hall, not ever so reached for. What did you do? There by the Olentangy, once called Stone for its knife, and therefore my soul caught at the place which is fitting, wedded as I was, and sudden in Ohio where objects are steep to climb and wrong. But you walking with your Herbert, this gift, a little nothing what you offered on my shelf now, hand whitening in the freezing, and you ungloved. And there your voice always, where we are walking, will always be walking by the Olentangy, freezing. Thank you very much.